What type of contract in which two parties are legally bound to act? What is a type of contract in which two parties are legally bound to act? Bilateral. What is one kind of real property depreciation caused by poor design? Functional obsolescence. What is the name of the party who acquires the title to real property in a deed? The grantee. What is one word that indicates how often a Pennsylvania salesperson's license is required to be renewed? Biennial. What is the condition called when a person dies with a will? Testate. What is the recorded legal notice that shows existing court action against real property? Lis pendens. What is the process of estimating the value of real property by using the rate of return and the annual net income? Capitalization. What is the decimal form of 72 mils? 0.072. What is the type of mortgage in which the mortgagor could receive future advances by increasing the debt up to its original amount? Open end. What is the act called of denying mortgages to applicants from a certain area based on factors other than financial qualification? Redlining. How much money would be charged as a result of a four-point origination fee on a $95,000 property on which there is a $70,000 mortgage? $2,800. What is the name of the state law that requires agreements of sale to be in writing? Statute of fraud. What is the name of the process by which a tenant is allowed to abandon a leased property without legal consequence if the landlord causes that leased property to become uninhabitable? Constructive eviction. What is the practice of charging a rate of interest that is higher than is allowed by state law? Usury. The lender is the owner of the mortgaged real estate according to what theory of mortgage law? Title theory. What is filed in court to settle a cloud on the title and determine the ownership of real property? Suit action to title. What recorded document indicates that the mortgage note has been paid in full? Mortgage satisfaction. What recorded document indicates that the mortgage note has been paid in full? Mortgage satisfaction. What is any amount of money that is charged to someone on a closing statement and is required to be paid? Debit. The right-of-way held by a railroad is an example of what type of easement? Easement in gross. The unexpected and dramatic loss of land as the result of an earthquake is represented by what real estate term? Avulsion. How many square feet are within an acre of land? 43,560. Because a tax on real property is based on the value of the property, it is known as what type of tax? Ad valorem. State and federal laws that regulate real estate when it's sold as a security are known by what general name? Blue sky laws. 24. List two terms that mean personal property: chattel and personalty. What is the list of recorded documents on a particular real property called? Abstract of title. What is the ability of the government to acquire real property against the wish of the owner in order to benefit the general public? Eminent domain. When real property is conveyed to a party through a will, the real property is referred to by what term? Devise. What is the most complete estate in real property? Fee simple. What is an exaggerated comment called that is made by a real estate agent about real property that would not be considered to be factual? Puffing. What is the process of arriving at a final market value conclusion from the estimates of the three appraisal approaches to value? Reconciliation. When an existing mortgage is assigned to the secondary mortgage market, or when it is assumed, what document indicates the unpaid mortgage balance and the date that the last mortgage payment was made? The estoppel certificate. What type of mortgage is based on collateral security pledge of two properties? Blanket mortgage. By what means can a person make a claim of title taking over the real estate of another through continuous, visible, and hostile possession for the statutory period of time? Adverse possession. What is the legal phrase used in contracts to bind the parties to complete a contract by specified dates in the contract? Time is of the essence. The principle that allows an investor to purchase real estate by relying primarily on borrowed money is known by what term? Leverage. What is another name for Regulation Z? Truth in Lending Act. What is the type of listing contract in which the owners employ one real estate broker but the owner pays no commission fee if they sell their real estate to someone who has not contacted the broker? Exclusive agency. What is the official name of a tenant who remains in a leased property after the lease expired? A holdover tenant. What is the typical business arrangement called that is created when individual persons invest money collectively as a group through pooled shares in a real estate investment property? Syndicate. What is the type of loan in which the principal as well as the interest is payable in periodic installments over the term of the loan? Amortized loan. How many members are on the Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission? 11. What is the profit called that is earned from the sale of a real property according to the U.S. Internal Revenue Service? Capital gains. The fact that value must be exchanged between the parties to a valid deed refers to what real estate term? Consideration. What legal action can be sought in court by a mortgagee to recover lost money when the public sale of a foreclosed property does not pay off the entire mortgage debt? Deficiency judgment. What is the title of the Pennsylvania real estate licensee who supervises an incorporated business that sells lists of available apartment units to prospective lessees? Manager of record. What is it called when a lender initiates a court process that will result in the public sale of the real property of a borrower in default? Foreclosure. What is the legal term for a buyer? The vendee. What is the name of the party being represented in an agency relationship? The principal. What type of mortgage represents a junior lien in which the second lender is used to pay off the first lender? A wraparound mortgage. What is the name of an item attached to a leased business property that can be removed by the tenant prior to the lease expiration? Trade fixture. What is the contract that allows a junior lien to take priority over a first mortgage lien? A subordination agreement. When title to real property is held by a single person, it is referred to as what form of ownership? Severalty. What is the difference between the boundary line of real property and the line indicating where a building could be built? Setbacks. What type of lease requires the lessee to pay the rent as well as other costs in maintaining the rented property? A net lease. Created in 1988 by Pennsylvania Act 112, known as the Agency Act, what is the name of the Pennsylvania real estate licensee who is permitted to provide communication or document preparation services without being an agent or advocate for consumer? A transaction licensee. What approach to value is used when an appraiser determines the replacement amount of a building minus depreciation plus the estimated land amount? Cost approach. After a buyer's offer to purchase is accepted, but before the buyer acquires legal title, what type of interest is held? Equitable title. Equitable title. The conversion of title of real property is known by what term when an owner dies having no heirs or will? Escheat. What land usage results in maximum current values? Highest and best use. What type of ownership exists when one of four owners of real estate dies his interest reverts to the remaining three. Joint tenancy. Assuming that the value of a property is more than the remaining mortgage balance, what is the difference between the value and the debt? Equity. What kind of mortgage is secured by real property as well as appliances? A package mortgage. What is the type of listing contract by which a seller can employ 16 real estate offices to simultaneously try to sell her real estate with only one commission to be paid to the office that finds the buyer? An open listing. What type of interest does a tenant have in real property if the lease expires by itself? Estate for years. What is the name of the Pennsylvania law on fair housing? The Pennsylvania Human Relations Act. What is a limitation that is placed on the use of real property that is generally initiated by a seller when the title is conveyed? Deed restriction. What is a particular parcel of land called over which an easement runs that benefits an adjacent property? A servient tenement. If a victim of fraud or duress challenges the validity of a contract, what type of contract classification would apply? Voidable. What is the act of directing prospective buyers towards particular areas of community or communities without regard to financial qualification? Steering. What is the single number called that measures the combined loan interest rate and finance charges in relationship to the amount of the loan? The annual percentage rate. How many acres are in a square mile? 640. What legal remedy allows one party in a contract to attempt to solicit the court to force another contract party in default to fulfill the agreed upon contract terms? Suit for specific performance. How would a contract be described if all the parties had met all of their obligations? Executed. With what type of deed does the seller guarantee good title to the buyer based upon the seller's ownership interest? Special warranty deed. What occurs at the end of a mortgage when the loan amount is not fully amortized? A balloon payment. What is the amount of money called that could be lost to a seller if a buyer breaches the sales contract? Earnest money deposit. What is a building called that is situated over the boundary line of the real property owner? Encroachment. What is the amount of money called that could be... never mind. Who is the owner of a life estate? The life tenant. What is the law that requires lending institutions to provide borrowers of federally related mortgages with a booklet explaining the settlement costs? RESPA, or Real Estate Settlement Practices Act. What kind of tenant does a condominium unit owner, what kind of interest does a condominium unit owner have in the common elements? Tenancy in common. What Pennsylvania real estate licensee is neither required to pass a licensing examination nor take any hours of instruction in real estate? A cemetery salesperson. What Pennsylvania real estate licensee is required to pass a salesperson licensing examination but is not required to take any hours of real estate instruction? A builder, owner, or salesperson. What different categories of Pennsylvania real estate licensees require no affiliation with the real estate broker? A rental listing referral agent. If a municipality requires a particular area of the community to have sidewalks, what is the name of the fee charged to each owner for his proportionate share of the public improvement? Special assessment. What legal concept identifies the destruction of a property by a life tenant? Waste. What type of ownership exists when two persons own an unequal, fractional interest in real property without the right of survivorship? Tenancy in common. What is the type of deed that is used to transfer ownership of real estate from a trustor to a trustee? Deed of trust or trust deed. What is the attempt What is the attempt by real estate licensees to get listings by persuading owners to sell their homes as the result of a concern about potential buyers who are of a particular minority group? Blockbusting. To what real estate concept do the following expressions refer? Control within the law, exclusion, disposition, enjoyment, and possession, the bundle of rights. What is the title of the person who has overall responsibility for the real estate transactions of a limited partnership? The general partner. How long can Pennsylvania real estate licensees remain inactive, after which that person would have to take and pass another licensing examination? 5 years. What principle of law affecting real estate indicates that prior oral evidence cannot, in most cases, be used to alter the terms of a written contract? The parole evidence rule. The right of a tradesman or contractor to file a mechanics lien is based on what theory? Enhancement of value theory. What is the name of the law that controls all aspects of real estate in Pennsylvania? The Real Estate Licensing and Registration Act. What are man-made additions to land called? Improvements. What is the relationship of trust that a seller has with a real estate broker as the result of both parties entering into a listing contract? Fiduciary. According to the rules and regulations of the Pennsylvania State Real Estate Commission, what type of listing contract requires certain words to be printed in boldface type? Exclusive rights to sell. What is the name of the third party who receives title to real property upon the death of a life tenant? The remainder man. What laws prevent real estate brokers from engaging in the discussion of setting fixed rates of compensation? Antitrust law. What is a claim that is made against real property owner where the property is held as collateral security because of a debt? Lien. What is the opportunity of one party to use the land of another for a special purpose? An easement. What is the court suit that is filed to terminate to the co-ownership interest in tenancy, in common, or joint tenancy? A suit to partition. What is the document that a developer executes and records that creates a condominium? The Declaration of Condominium. What is the basic right that permits a mortgagor in default to recover a property from foreclosure sale by paying all owed costs on the property? Redemption. What is the name of a new contract that is not used for the purpose of eliminating and replacing an existing contract? Novation. What is created when sellers change the buyer's terms in a written agreement of sale and then the sellers sign the document? A counteroffer. In order for the transfer of title of real property to take place between two parties in a deed, what must occur? Delivery and acceptance. What type of deed gives to the grantee the weakest form of title position? A quitclaim. In order for a document to have the capacity to be recorded in Pennsylvania, it must meet what requirements in addition to being in writing and signed? Acknowledged. What principle of value indicates the worth of expensive real estate is decreased by the proximity to inexpensive real estate? Regression. What is the transfer of interest in a mortgage from the holder of the mortgage in the primary mortgage market to a new owner for the mortgage in the secondary mortgage market? Assignment of mortgage. What is the name of the temporary loan that is used to help a borrower make a down payment on a new home by releasing the equity from an existing unsold home? Swing or bridge loan. What clause in a mortgage prevents a seller from allowing a buyer to assume the seller's existing mortgage? Alienation or due on sale. What is the type of life estate that is based on the life of someone other than the life tenant? A pure autre vie. What principle of value indicates that uniting two adjoining parcels of land into one tract may result in a higher combined land value? Plottage. What is the type of real estate financing arrangement by which the seller becomes the lessee of the same property? Sale and leaseback. What is the name of the federal government agency in which real estate investment securities must be registered? The SEC. What is the public awareness that is given to everyone when a document is recorded? Constructive notice. What type of deed is used to transfer ownership from the trustee to the beneficiary of a trust? Trustee's deed. What is the right of real property owner that defines the property boundary line next to a stream? Riparian rights. What is the real estate principle used in some states that indicates that the right to use water is controlled by the state prior to appropriation? What is the name of the law that requires a lender to cancel private mortgage insurance when a borrower has 22% equity in her property based upon the original property value? Homeowners Protection Act. What is the particular interest that is held when a life estate is ended and the ownership goes back to the original owner? Reversionary history. Reversionary interest. Sorry about that. In what part of a condominium unit does the owner have tenancy in common? The common elements. In what type of real estate contract involving a transfer of title does the seller usually initially keep the title to the property? An installment contract, which is also known as a contract for deed or a land contract. Under what government power does a municipality have the right to enforce building codes? Police power. What is a property called when that was in existence before the passage of present zoning laws and is permitted to operate contrary to those same laws? Non-conforming use. What is the ending place in a metes and bounds legal description of real property? The POB, or point of beginning. In what type of lease does the lessor pay for the property expenses? Gross lease. The actual words of conveyance of title are found in what part of the deed? The granting clause. What concept expresses the simultaneous representation by a broker of two parties with conflicting interests to a real estate transaction? Dual agency. What variable figure, expressed as an appraisal term, is used to multiply the estimated monthly rent of property for the purpose of arriving at a market value of that property? Gross rent multiplier. What is an item of personal property called that becomes permanently attached to the real property? A fixture. What status does a contract have that fails to contain all the essential elements? Void. What is the name of the party who holds the title to real estate in a trust? The trustee. What type of concurrent ownership of real property is held solely by a husband and a wife? Tenancy by the entirety. What type of lien affects the ownership of only one particular piece of real estate? Specific lien. What type of mortgage would exist if the real property offeree provides the financing for the offeror? A purchase money mortgage. What is it called when a landowner is given municipal approval to build a house higher than is currently allowed by local ordinances? A variance. A lien filed by a tradesperson against a particular indebted property owner would most probably be an example of what type of lien? A mechanic's lien. According to the law of agency, what kind of fiduciary representative is the selling real estate broker in a relationship to the property owner as the result of a single agency listing agreement? A subagent. A real estate property manager typically operates within what type of agency with the property owner? General agency. What is the maximum amount of money that can be claimed by an aggrieved person from the Pennsylvania Real Estate Recovery Fund? $20,000. What type of listing contract provides the greatest protection of compensation for a real estate broker? Exclusive rights to sell. What type of contract is created neither by written or neither by orally spoken words, but only by the actions of the party? An implied contract. What type of leasehold estate represents the illegal occupation of the leased premises by the lessee? A tenancy in sufferance. How many hours of real estate instruction are required of a Pennsylvania real estate broker candidate to be eligible for licensing? 240. What is the maximum length of time for a Pennsylvania exclusive listing contract? 1 year. What is the difference called between the rate of interest on an adjustable rate mortgage that is based on an economic indicator and the rate of interest on the same adjustable rate mortgage that is charged to borrowers? Margin. What principle of value refers to the fact that the highest values occurs when real properties are similar to each other? Conformity. What is the name of the contract that creates a fiduciary relationship between a selling broker and a buyer? The buyer agency contract. How long does the purchaser of a timeshare or campground membership have to cancel following the date of the purchaser executed the purchase contract? Midnight of the 5th day. What is the amount of money called that can be subtracted directly from an income tax to reduce that tax? Tax credit. What is the name of the IRS status of a real estate agent in which 90% or more of the income of the agent comes from the sales production and through which the agent is individually responsible for paying income and Social Security taxes? An independent contractor. What is the name of the type of mortgage default arrangement where the mortgager gives title to the mortgagee instead of the traditional legal procedure? Deed in lieu of foreclosure. From the time of completion of real estate transactions, how long must a Pennsylvania real estate broker keep records for that transaction? 3 years. What type of Pennsylvania real estate license allows a real estate licensee from another state to sell real estate in Pennsylvania? Reciprocal. What is the name of the process for changing real property into personal property? Severance. What is a seasonal crop referred to that requires routine care and is considered to be personal property? An emblement. What type of easement allows access to landlocked land? An easement by necessity. What is the type of zoning change called when a municipal government allows one area of a community to be zoned differently than the remaining community when the exception is made after the zoning rules were enacted? Spot zoning. What is the loss of right of a property owner to file for a court injunction to prevent the violation of a restrictive covenant because of a delay of inaction by a property owner? Lashes. What is the term for the legal status of a person who dies without a will? Intestate. What is the most common secondary mortgage market warehouse agency for mortgage service companies? Federal National Mortgage Association. What is the official name of the party in a contract who accepts an offer? The offeree. What provision, section, or clause in a mortgage requires a satisfaction to be filed and recorded? Defeasance. What is the term that refers to the breach of contract? Default. For whom may a Pennsylvania real estate associate broker accept monetary compensation for renting a property? The affiliated employing broker. What is the type of title to real property for which a person has ownership to the right of possession and actual possession? Complete and good title. What occurs when the rate of interest increases on an adjustable rate mortgage and a payment cap prevents an increase in the monthly mortgage payment to go above the payment cap? Negative amortization. What characteristic of tenancy by the entirety allows the widow of a deceased spouse to retain the property title? Right of survivorship. What type of lease typically allows for the construction of improvements over a long period of time? A ground lease. Through what means is the title to personal property transferred? The bill of sale. What is the name of the list of previous owners of real property along with their record of the transfers of title? Chain of title. What is the name of the compensatory amount of money that is typically available to be awarded to the non-defaulting party in a contract as a result of a breach of contract? Liquidated damages. What is the opportunity of a party to a contract to have the exclusive privilege to react to an offer prior to any other party? Right of first refusal. What is the name of the instrument that a surveyor uses in conducting a survey? A transit. How much time does an aggrieved party have to file a claim for compensation from the Pennsylvania Real Estate Recovery Fund, including any reviews and appeals to the court judgment? 1 year. What is the process of pledging real property as collateral security to obtain a mortgage without giving up possession of the property? Hypothecation. What is the financing arrangement in which a borrower pays an upfront fee to reduce the payments on the loan for the first several years? A buy-down. What is the name of the soil absorption test test to determine the type of sewage system to be used on real property? A percolation test. On what form is the value from a VA appraisal reported? The CRV, or Certificate of Reasonable Value. In the valuation of real property, what is the sold price of a real property called? Market price. What protection is needed by a lending institution when a conventional mortgage is given to a borrower who makes a down payment of less than 20%? Private mortgage insurance, or PMI. Within what time period must required real estate courses be successfully completed by a broker and salesperson candidates prior to passing the appropriate licensing examination? 10 years. What is the name of the contract that is entered into between a property owner and a property manager? A management agreement. What is the type of real property ownership in which the title to real property is held by a corporation and the occupants have title to shares of stock? A cooperative ownership. What are the standards of construction called that are required by most municipalities for building houses? Building codes. How many routine inspections of a real estate office are allowed to be conducted each year by the Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission? 4 years. What type of financing is most typically provided by a lending institution when a house is built on an unimproved land? Construction loan. In what type of listing is the fee to a real estate broker any amount of the sale price that exceeds or guaranteed amount to the seller? A net listing. After passing the Pennsylvania salesperson licensing exam, how long does an applicant have to apply for a license before being required to retest? 3 years. What clause in a mortgage clause allows the lender to decrease the maturity of the debt and request an immediate full payoff of the mortgage debt when the borrower has breached the terms of an agreement? Acceleration. What is the name of the contract condition upon which the contract is dependent? Contingency. What is an attorney's written opinion of the status of title called? Certificate of title. What is the minimum number of public meetings that are required to be held each year by the Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission? 3. Who appoints the members of the Pennsylvania Real Estate Commission? The Pennsylvania Governor. For the purchase of real property, what is the result of subtracting the amount of financing from the sale price of the property? Down payment.